Before we purchased this building, it was a few other things. Originally, it was a schoolhouse, and then in 1889, it became the corporate office for a foundry called Malibu Ironworks just across the street. And for 90 years, it was that office where Malibu Ironworks provided steel casting for the U.S. economy through railroad equipment, horse-drawn buggies, and then even a little later, it was helping with the auto industry. But due to many factors, a recession, and a few other things, it actually ended up having even there was some environmental problems. It had to close its doors in 1977. Like Malibu Ironworks, part of our process of becoming is going to be involving problems. We all have problems in our life. But I think becoming who God designed us to become is about not becoming free from problems, but becoming free with or without your problems. Think of it this way. When your kids have problems, do they just automatically stop growing and stop becoming more of who they're supposed to be? No, of course not. They work through their problems. They may still have them, even if it's a learning disability. They still learn through that problem. Whether if it's a physical disability, they still learn to work through that problem. Even myself, I have a physical problem. Some of you are like, of course you do. But no, my physical problem is I have a hole in my brain. I have a genetic condition called porencephaly that has affected me through my life. But you know what? I didn't let that problem not allow me to become who God wanted me to become. That's really the case for all of us who ever kids, which is all of us. When we have faced things, we've faced problems, we don't give up at those problems. We learn how to become more of what we were called or who we were called to be despite those problems. Even if those problems stay with us, we still can become all that we are designed to become. In fact, I think problems are part of our process of becoming free, exact. The Apostle Paul, we learn in Galatians 4:13 that he had problems. The first time he visited the Galatian believers, it says that he was sick. Now, it's possible that this sickness is tied to another time where we read in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, where Paul received what's called a thorn in his flesh. So he had a problem, a physical problem that he wanted to overcome. In fact, he had that problem, and he asked God 3 different times to take it away from him. What's interesting is God's the one who gave him the problem. And when he did ask to have that problem taken away, Jesus' response is very clear. This is what he said. My grace is all you need. My power works best in weakness. Paul would go on to say, so now I'm glad to boast about my weaknesses so that the power of Christ can work through me. So it was through Paul's problems that God would help Paul become all that he was called to become, a messenger of the gospel. It was through his problems that he was becoming free, to be exact. Like I did earlier, Paul would illustrate this with children in Galatians chapter 4. You see, their problem was that they were slaves to sin and to the law, but they had been set free because they were adopted into the family of God and put their faith and trust in Jesus. Yet, these Galatians, they wanted to go back to being enslaved. They wanted to go back to obeying the law. It's this ongoing theme that Paul has to deal with the Galatian believers that started back in chapter 1. That he is truly stunned that they want to go back to their old way. They want to go back to the way they were before the transformation process began. That they want to go back to being a caterpillar when they can be a butterfly. See, this journey we're on isn't a journey of change. It's a journey of transformation. It's not like we're changing our clothes. We're being transformed into a whole new person. Paul then gives this interesting comparison to labor pains and this process of becoming free in Galatians chapter 4, verse 19. Oh, my dear children, I feel as if I'm going through labor pains for you again, and they will continue until Christ is fully developed in your lives. Paul feels the pain of the transformation process for those who are in the Galatian church, those who are like his kids. He feels this transformation pain like it's labor pains, and that he's going to continue to feel this pain until they get to the place of becoming something new. That is amazing. That is a crazy thing to think about, that he's going to continue to feel that kind of pain for them in their process of becoming. But I get it so clearly. I understand it. I understand that process of loving someone, praying for someone, crying with someone, rejoicing with someone, celebrating the good, and then going through the bad with people, and then them for whatever different reasons they start going a different direction than the design direction that God wants them to come, and that pain, you can feel that for them, and yet you're ready, and you're hoping and you're praying that they will complete the transformation process in themselves, just as much as Paul is wanting the Galatian believers to complete the transformation process in their own lives. I get that. I see that. This reminds me of the year that I spent teaching in the Life Change program at the Grant County Rescue Mission. Probably would still be teaching if the pandemic didn't happen. But the year leading up to that, I was able to speak into the lives. I actually taught 2 different classes. One class was for those who were brand new to the Life Change program, and then the other class was to everybody who was in the program. And I tell you, I love being with those guys. I loved investing into them, and them even actually investing into me. We were in that transformation process together. I loved being able to encourage them and challenge them. I took them to men's conferences. We took them to out to eat, took them to the movies, just spent some time together and really enjoyed every moment that we had with them. It was a beautiful time. And there'd be one time I'd come to a class and somebody who was in it the week before wasn't there. And that honestly would break my heart that they weren't still in the Life Change program. And I know there's a lot of reasons and a lot of things happen for people, but that really would... That would really, my heart would ache for them, because I wanted them to go through their transformation process. And that Life Change program is one of those steps for people to really become who God designed them to become. But just as there would be people who wouldn't finish the program, who would leave the program, there was those who would complete the program. And about every 2 months, there's a graduation for some of them, and it's hosted at New Life. And it is one of the coolest things to see someone complete a transformation process. And I'm going to tell you, one of the things to see is a Life Change program is a great example of seeing someone go through the process of transformation, metamorphosis, the journey to becoming who God wants to become. It is such a joy to see it. So again, I can see what Paul is thinking about. I can consider what Paul is dealing with when it comes to these Galatian believers, how he wants them to become who they are called to become, just as I would want anyone else who I've had the joy of journeying with over these years. Whether you've gone through a Life Change graduation or a Life Change program like the Rescue Mission has, or you've just been going to church all your life, or you've just started joining church and this is like a brand new journey for you, the whole process of becoming and becoming free, it has a different length of time for everybody. But Rich Wilkerson Jr. says it this way: direction is more important than speed. So which direction are you going? Which way are you headed? Are you headed towards becoming free, or are you headed towards going back into slavery, going back into being enslaved by sin or by the law? It's not about how fast you're going. This is a marathon. Life is a marathon. It is not a sprint. We've heard that before, and it is true in the journey to becoming all that God wants us to become. Are you heading back to the life that you once had, or are you heading towards becoming free to the life that God wants you to have? Look, we are all in the journey of becoming something. And if we are putting our faith in Jesus, then that journey to becoming is becoming something new, being transformed, going through a metamorphosis in our life and becoming free. Not free from our problems, but free even with our problems or without our problems. Just like any package that is being delivered, it's in transit. It is headed somewhere. It's going to its direction. We ourselves are in transit. We are headed somewhere. We are going in a direction. My question is what direction are you going in? Because direction is far more important than speed. What direction are you headed? Are you headed towards transformation? Are you headed towards becoming all God designed you to become? I want you to go through that journey. I want you to head that way. And I want you to know part of that process, part of that journey is becoming free with problems, not becoming free from problems.